What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Michael and welcome to FudgeMuppet. So I've been watching a lot of the Fallout 76 presentations and trailers over and over again, and I've caught up on all the extra interviews, and man, am I keen to see how this game turns out. The thing is though, that I've still got a lot of questions on my mind that I just can't stop thinking about, and I've seen others wondering the exact same things as me, be it on Twitter or in the comments section on our channel. So essentially what I want to do now is make a massive discussion for the comment section of this video and see what you all have to say about some of these questions. Because here's the thing, and a bit of a warning, there may be 13 questions here, but they're more like question topics with other smaller questions within them. Let me know if you want any follow-up videos to really dive deep into any of the concepts. Now, I've been told to trust in Todd, and I really do think this game could turn out really well, but there's no denying it's going to be quite different to what we've ever experienced before. So without further ado, here are my questions or question topics in no particular order, and obviously I'll be letting you guys know my own thoughts on them too, so we have some initial food for thought to work with here. Question number 1. How exactly will death work in Fallout 76? A grim way to start the video, I know. So here's what's confirmed. Todd Howard said Fallout 76 is entirely online, and we know players can attack other players, but we've been told we wouldn't lose our character progression if we died, and in the no-clip documentary it was mentioned that the penalty for dying was as light as having the player respawn at a nearby location. This was to ensure the consequences of PvP weren't too chaotic. However, one question about death and respawning is how far away is a nearby location actually going to be? Because if it's really close, then you would just be able to walk back to where you died, find the player who tried to kill you and did kill you, who you've probably damaged in the process, and then just finish them off. It could be a constant cycle of killing and a pile of bodies in one spot if you don't respawn far away enough. The same thing goes for creatures in an online game. If there's a really hard creature and you take off half its health and then die, will you just respawn at the nearby farm, walk 30 seconds to where it was, and then just finish it off because it's on half health? It just sounds like something that will have to be balanced very well to avoid the game being too easy, and they'll also need to make sure people can't just camp where you respawn and kill you as soon as you come back to life. Also, I think it's worth mentioning that we probably won't be able to save our game like normal. Saving your game wherever you want is normal for Fallout fans so far, but it won't work in online. At first I thought maybe we'll see something similar to the survival mode of Fallout 4, where the only way you can save your game is by sleeping in a bed, but then I thought you'll probably never have to save the game anyway, and they'll just bring you back to life in a place somewhat safe if you die. Again, I'm not sure if a nearby location literally means the closest place, like any garage or processing plant that you've discovered, or if it will be at one of many PvP safe hubs which might be scattered throughout the game. We've heard hubs mentioned before, but we don't know much about them, though we do know there are 6 specific regions shown in the game, so perhaps each one has a safe zone hub, so if you die in the region, you're sent to the corresponding region's hub. This makes it not too far away from where you would have been, but also not too close for you to just quickly run back and kill whatever killed you. Personally, I just feel like you'd have to respawn somewhere out of the reach of PvP and somewhere safe, but time will tell. What do you think about how death and respawning will work? Question number 2. How exactly will some of these special stats work? If perks are going to be changed to perk cards and it all has to work for an online game, then special stats will have slightly different functions too. We know that perception affects your weapon accuracy in VATs, your awareness of nearby enemies, and your ability to detect stealthy movement. Also, I didn't mention it in the intro, but I think this video will also help a lot of people catch up on what is confirmed. So that's what perception does. We also now know that charisma is your ability to lead and help others, and allows you to share higher point perk cards, and also affects your rewards from group missions and prices when you barter. But hold on a minute. How do we barter if everyone's a real person? It's not like you're going to convince a roaming trader to give you a better price for your items, because this would be a real person. If we buy and sell with each other and charisma affected the price, then I think people would just not buy off others who have high charisma because it would be too expensive. In that case, could you get a lot of business with low charisma? It's pretty confusing. Charisma for improved bartering could work as normal if you can set up or find robot shopkeepers though. Then with high charisma, you're in business. In the no no-clip documentary, they did mention that they've been toying with the idea of letting players set up a robot vendor in hub areas, but it wasn't confirmed as being in the game yet. Also, if there's no human NPCs, will there even be speech checks? And how does your ability to lead and help others translate into game mechanics? Another confirmed thing is that intelligence is a measure of your mental acuity, affecting your ability to hack terminals, the condition and durability of items that you craft, and the return you get from scrapping. But it doesn't mention that it improves your leveling speed, which is understandable for an online game, but how about the luck stat? Will the luck stat still allow us to unlock critical hits through VATs usage? Will strength allow players to deal more melee damage and to carry more loot and resources? And will endurance still give us more health and resistances? I imagine endurance and strength will actually function similarly to previous games, but the luck stat has me wondering if there will even be a critical hit bar at all, like in Fallout 4. Because remember, critical hits do way more damage and they don't miss, and being able to use them in PvP VATs to just instant kill someone would be super overpowered. And for those of you who don't know, VATs is confirmed, which I will talk about next. Also, I saw something that's probably nothing, but I'd love to hear what you think, and I didn't know where to talk about it. So there's this interesting special stat poster on the wall in Vault 76 showing job titles that say educators, technicians and mechanics, public service worker, marketing specialist, building construction and design workers, I think it was hard to read, pest control professional, and another one that was hard to read, medical care professionals. There are 7 roles here, which could be one for each special stat, but I doubt we're meant to be taking it literally. It's probably nothing, but I thought some people would appreciate the mention anyway. It is a cool poster, but mainly let me know what you think about how luck will work, if there's a critical meter, or if it's done how it was in previous Fallout games. How will bartering go down, and anything else you've thought of. And now for question 3. What is the exact deal with VATs? This was a question I had right after the presentation, and while Todd has offered some more clarification in his interview, I'm still pretty confused. So at first I thought there wouldn't be VATs at all. How could you have VATs in an online game where it would be impossible to slow the time of the world around you simply because other players are experiencing that world simultaneously? Well, Todd confirmed VATs by saying that it will be there, but that it's actually going to be in real time. He said that it doesn't slow time, but you can still target and pick parts of the body and all of that. He said the basics of it are the same and that it's still works great. He said for the players who aren't that good of a Twitch shooter, they can still be okay just by making their character good at VATs. Hearing this, my question hasn't changed all that much. I'm now thinking, how on post-apocalyptic Earth is real-time VATs going to work in an online game, even against enemy creatures? It seems by the time you select an enemy and then pick where you want to shoot, the battle would be over, with you dying. Or do you think it would be too overpowered and function like an aimbot? I guess not if you need to improve VATs proficiency, like you could target the head of an enemy but still miss based on an already existing 70% chance to hit in VATs, and surely it's much slower than just shooting normally, already putting yourself at a disadvantage for having to make VAT selections while the enemy just sprints right at you super fast or just fires away with their gun. I also think it might be whack at close range. Imagine if PvP enemies run in circles around you and the VAT selector just spins around really fast in real time. It sounds odd, and I'm sure it'll take some getting used to. I'm not sure if it will be overpowered or too hard to use efficiently. I have a feeling it will be better for medium to long range carefully placed shots or weapons without scopes, but who knows? What do you think? Question number 4. How will the PvP turn out in terms of making the game enjoyable and fair? Well, in his E3 interview, Todd mentions that PvP is something they're constantly dialing. They don't want it to turn out griefy, but at the same time he wants it to create some drama for players. To me, it basically seemed like he was stressing that PvP is likely going to be part of the game whether you want it or not, but he also stressed the fact that they're constantly tweaking it. Basically, for everyone speculating, this means we just don't know how it'll work, but I see a lot of problems with PvP if it becomes too dominant of a feature. What stops crews of 6 or even 10 or 20 people from teaming up as a raider gang and finding lone players to terrorize, stopping the game from being fun for the targets at least? What stops people from camping and killing you constantly as you try to complete a quest or build an awesome settlement base? Todd did say that if you see a raider gang, they're going to be real players. For those who don't know, apparently we don't have any human NPCs in the game who aren't real players, so it's going to be a pretty different experience. Todd more or less says they're trying to balance the incentives for people who want to be really aggressive and focus on PvP with those who want to avoid PvP as much as possible. He said those incentives would be both in-game and social. One example we were told of in the no-clip documentary was that players who are overly aggressive will have wanted levels. I imagine that this would incentivize other people to go and kill them for more XP or some sort of bounty reward, meaning that if you want to play mean and kill everyone, then other players are going to come after you in droves, looking to put you in place and get your head for a reward. You may still survive, but it makes you think twice if you want to play aggressive. Also, I wonder if the rewards for killing a passive player are really low, therefore removing some of the incentive to kill someone who wants to be left alone. What do you think? Another thing related to PvP working smoothly is level matching. Simply put, if we were placed in a world where high-level players can engage in PvP with us and we're still a low level, we'll have no chance. I'm pretty sure BGS will address this by putting players in servers with people who are around their level, or preventing PvP entirely if the level gap is just too big, but I'd love to know exactly how it will work. Here's a potential issue. What if I want to play Fallout 76 with my friend who is 20 levels below me? Will he find himself surrounded by other players who are way too strong and keep killing him, or will it just all be random leveled players? And what if a higher level friend just comes with me through all the lower level areas and quests, ensuring I won't be able to lose in my own PvP battles with other lower level players, and that all of my quests will be super easy? You never know what people will try in an online game, and I think Bethesda is well aware of how complex this balancing act will be. I also have heard the idea of PvP being a choice in some way, so I wonder if it could not be a choice during a first encounter, but then in successive encounters with the same player, you would have to agree to battle them for it to work. I'm pretty keen to hear some more thoughts on this, especially from people who have loads of experience with online games. I'm curious to find out what feedback Bethesda will get during the beta testing as well when they make their final decisions. Question number 5 that I've been thinking about: will we really experience a compelling story through the voice of the Overseer robots, journals, and terminals? I ask this because Todd Howard says there are quests and a story and all that good stuff we love, but also says that the game is entirely online and that every human character in the game is a real person. This would mean all the cool side quests involving various unique characters like mercenaries, shopkeepers, serial killers, scientists, and the like would all be gone. We've been told we'll experience story through holotapes, journals, robots, and terminals, so we kind of answered how the story is still possible in this fully online game, but it still begs the question, how will it be a good story? In an interview, Jeff Gardner says, "It's the story of the survivors that went out before you in the first 25 years after the bombs dropped, so you'll engage in their story. There will be a lot of holotapes and you'll hear a lot of audio." Now believe me, I'm well aware that Bethesda already do drop heaps of awesome lore and info in terminals and tapes, and I know their environmental storytelling is nice, and I know they've done some awesome stories with robots, but I find it unlikely that we will experience a story as deep as other Fallout games without the use of real, still living people that you can emotionally relate to. I'm not saying we can't though, and I'd definitely love to be surprised. I really hope Fallout 76 gives us an awesome story and actually gives us a huge dump of cool lore, but I assume a lot of it's going to be pre-war stuff simply because on the Fallout timeline, you're one of the first to enter the wasteland. I also find it kind of annoying that there wouldn't be any real factions without human NPCs. Like after we saw the first trailer, it seemed like there could be a good chance we might meet some secret government group inside the Greenbrier, but I suppose we'll just be reading documents in there. Still, it's a cool location. I did also see a video by Mr. Matty Plays where he talks about the People's Liberation Army as a pre-war faction that could be explored through these holotapes and documents, so that could be pretty neat. Maybe at the very least we'll be able to create our own factions. I know that would definitely be something I'd enjoy doing, especially if we can make it really big and have a FudgeMuppet faction. Now in the making of Fallout 76 video, it was stated that the world has yet to be reclaimed by one faction or another, basically confirming the lack of factions. But then in the same video, those things I predicted were half ghouls, the Scorched, were referred to as a faction of intelligent ghouls, and they're more or less halfway to being a feral ghoul, but not really. But then it was said these guys are more or less replacing generic raiders, so I don't think they should be or will be a storyline faction in the same way the Brotherhood of Steel is. What do you think will happen with factions in the storyline? Now for question 6, and this is a really interesting one. How is loot going to work in Fallout 76? Obviously, I realize that we'll be able to kill monsters and loot their corpse and search containers and so on, but how does the loot system really work? For example, what happens with unique gear hidden in the environment? Will there be any uniques at all at set locations? With dozens of players running around the map, who gets to keep it? Do these unique weapons respawn in their set locations, and if so, how often? Because if they they do, what stops me from just farming 100 copies of the same unique? I guess one solution would be that everyone in the game can find the same weapon hidden in a certain chest or container, but the weapon itself wouldn't be laying out on a table or something like that. This way, each player can look in this special chest that has a unique, and then just get the weapon or armor piece for themselves. When you try to return to this chest, it will be empty, but for other players, they'll be able to see the unique and get it if they haven't already picked it up. Another alternative is that you get unique gear for completing quests. If there's a certain side quest that you can only complete once, then you would only be given one copy of a unique item. What does scare me a tiny bit, but I'm expecting a lot to be different in this game, is the idea that we might not have truly unique weapons at all, but rather only randomly generated legendary weapons picked off the corpses of highly irradiated creatures who are encountered most often in areas that have just been nuked. This further incentivizes nuking areas, which we know is already incentivized by the fact that we'll be able to gain access to rare and valuable resources within the resulting fallout. I wonder if someone can run past and steal something that I've just spent a lot of time on getting. Like, imagine if I killed a big glowing deathclaw and then someone just runs up behind me, takes the loot and keeps running, and they spec'd into endurance or something and they can just sprint forever. Who knows? I just want it to all go smoothly, and I really hope we can still get some sweet unique gear. Unfortunately though, if 100 people have the same piece of unique gear, I wonder how unique it will really feel. This is why I think there's a good chance we may not get true unique weapons. In the making of Fallout 76 documentary, we were told that the legendary gear system is confirmed to be back, it's there, but they didn't strictly say there are no uniques. They did say there are different tiers of legendary weapons and armor though. I'm sure Bethesda sees the appeal of these randomized powerful weapons like we saw in Fallout 4, because they know players can obtain all the uniques in a game and then it's all done, but they can't obtain all the weapons and run out of stuff to find if the gear is super randomized. I just hope we still see uniques alongside the legendary system. I also believe we can't properly loot real players that we kill. During the PvP battle in the E3 presentation, we see the player kill another person and they seem to receive caps as a reward and back off from the body. Whether or not this backing off was just to look cooler, I'm not sure, but perhaps we are just given caps and can't actually take any awesome gear they've got on. Todd said death is already annoying enough and we won't lose our gear, and call me crazy, but I think I'd rather that. I don't want people taking any of my stuff. Oh, and here's a thought back on the idea of unique stuff. Perhaps for unique gear, they could use a Borderlands kind of system where certain set enemy bosses have a chance, say 5%, of dropping a set unique each time they're killed. And if there were enough uniques in the game and there's only 24 to 32 or so players on the map, then maybe your unique weapon will feel unique enough. Anyways, how do you think the whole loot system's gonna work? Now, speaking of nukes, it's time for question 7. What really happens with the nuke system and to the nuked places? So if I'm playing Fallout 76 and I decide to nuke a certain location, how long does this location stay nuked? And does it become unnuked when I come back and log in another day? Am I even in that same game world when I come back and log in? Todd Howard has explained that your settlements go with you when you leave the game, but if your settlement does happen to get nuked, there are ways you can simply repair it. We were also told that the nuked area will fade down and change back to normal. This is good to know, but how will this work in an online system? It sounds quite complicated. Now, you could choose to nuke someone and their settlement, but you can also nuke pre-existing structures in set locations. Let's talk about pre-existing locations. So you nuke it, create a high-level zone, and you come in with your power armor to kill powerful creatures and take advantage of rare drops, crafting materials, and items. Then you leave victorious with a good haul. The buildings there are absolutely smashed and radiation is everywhere. How long will it take until the buildings are repaired, and how does it make sense? What if I log out and don't come back for a week, but someone else just stands there watching it, recording the footage? Will it repair in front of their eyes, or only when no players are present? Perhaps when everyone leaves, it gets repaired after a certain amount of time, and it's rationalized in the law that rebuilders from the vault fixed it up while you were gone. I wonder if that would also be the time it takes for the nukes to respawn. I'd imagine the nuclear codes would be reset each time this happens too. Now, if there's just one nuclear silo per region and there's 6 regions, then only 6 places on the map could be nuked at any one time, right? So it's not like players are going to turn the entire map into the glowing sea. Now, when it comes to player-built settlements, from what I can tell, it won't be too annoying to repair if they get bombed, and from what we're told, players are actually given a big incentive to nuke where players aren't. Like, if you finally get a nuke and you're going to use it to bomb somewhere, I think it's a lot more fun and rewarding to bomb a big structure-filled place that already exists, just to see what it will look like, and also because I assume there's more opportunities for powerful creatures to be there. More opportunity when compared to some lone wanderer's small camp setup. What's the point of finally getting a nuke and bombing that? Yeah, it's funny, but you do miss out potentially on better rewards. All in all, we know a lot more about the nuke system than we did before, but I can't help but wonder how it's all orchestrated to work smoothly in an online game. If I join a friend's game, is his world different with other places nuked? You'd think so. I've given you some ideas, but what do you reckon? One thing I know us YouTubers are worried about with nukes is content creation. Imagine if we're making you a sweet guide on how to complete a tricky quest, and I'm all like, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? And then suddenly a nuke just falls from the sky in the quest area, and I have to come back and start all over again. Question number 8, and this one isn't too big, but what are all the softcore survival features going to be, and how exactly will this aspect of the game play out? Personally, I wasn't actually a huge fan of the survival mode in Fallout 4. I didn't hate it, I just don't prefer it as much as the normal Fallout mechanics. I think Bethesda knows that an intense survival game isn't for everyone, and this is what the whole softcore description was implying, so maybe we can't save, and I can already confirm that diseases are in, items degrade again, food rots, and we'll need to drink water occasionally and eat food. I think we'll probably need to get enough sleep too, and maybe there's even weighted ammo, but I'm not sure we'll be seeing other features like adrenaline play a huge role, and I don't think they'll make the eating and drinking requirements too tough. Again, you never know, I'm probably just projecting what I want here, but I just get the vibe like the softcore elements will truly be softcore. There's too much exploration and settlement building and story to be doing for the average player to be worrying about the more complex issues. Simply put, I think we all know Bethesda wants their game to appeal to the fans, but also to the masses, and if they make the survival elements too tough, it might turn casual gamers away. I haven't got a whole lot to say here, but I'd love to hear from people who have lots of experience with online survival games, and those who love survival mode in Fallout in general. What survival features do you think will definitely be there that haven't been confirmed so far? Question number 9. What on earth happens with dialogue? Is it 100% scrapped entirely? It seems like everyone who didn't want a voiced protagonist, myself included, got what we asked for, but not what we wanted. If there are no human NPCs in the game, truly, then how are we even going to have conversations? Perhaps there are some dialogue options with robots, but I imagine it's not overly extensive, and again, I don't think we will have a voiced protagonist, otherwise every male character will sound the same and every female character will sound the same. Is it really just going to be all emotes and TeamSpeak to literally talk to your friends? I guess speaking over a microphone would be cool if you literally roleplayed a character, but that requires a lot of effort, and personally, I just like to roleplay in my head, not out loud, and I'm not the best at voicing different characters. Also, a lot of lore was delivered through dialogue in previous games, but perhaps this time it truly will all just be things like holotapes talking to you, but without you talking back. Do you think dialogue is gone entirely, or just really rare with some robots? Question number 10. Is there fast travel? And how will it work? So if this softcore survival game has no fast travel, then we're gonna have to go everywhere on foot. Todd did say there are no vehicles, and we will be going everywhere on foot, but I assume he just means that as far as transport methods go. But with a map 4 times the size of Fallout 4, surely some sort of fast travel is needed. It's a really big map. I know BGS members have mentioned hubs while explaining their game in the Making of Fallout 76 documentary, so perhaps we can fast travel between these, but that's it. What do you think? Because I don't actually think traditional fast travel will be there, but I can see us being able to travel to main hubs, perhaps one in each of the 6 regions mentioned. Simply put, if you could just fast travel to any location, it would be way too easy to ambush people. Imagine you're being all tactical and you're all set up to protect yourself. You've checked in every direction, there's no enemies, and you're moving on your own through a small warehouse location. Suddenly, 20 players just all fast travel to this location, spawn in there all around you like synths from thin air, and just blow you to shreds. It just doesn't seem functional to be able to fast travel to any location, at least in my opinion. But again, I'll be reading through all these comments, so let me know if you see ways it could still work. And question number 11. What is the deal with playstyles, and will some simply be better than others? I know that some people will likely focus on combat more than building and so on through perk cards and other leveling choices, but I guess what I'm asking is whether or not there will just be a way that you have to play if you want to win at PvP. For example, is everyone just going to wear power armor in combat? Surely it'll offer the highest protection against both radiation and pure damage. I wonder how rare fusion cores will be though, but realistically, power armor might become essential to survive in planned PvP at high levels, and to get your hands on the best loot by killing the best monster. booster. You get what I mean, like everyone just using the best gear because stats would matter more than role-playing, at least when it comes to fights. Obviously, there are other playstyles which are powerful that don't involve power armor, like stealth, but how will stealth mechanics even work? It's not like other players will visually find you harder to see if your character is good at sneaking, although I guess you could get perk cards to pick which silence your movement while crouched, and perhaps even speed it up. That would be dope. We also know now that the perception stat benefits your ability to detect stealthy movement, whether this means camouflaged creatures who are sneaking up on you or actual players or both, I'm not sure. What makes things weird though is that we were told that you can see other players on the map, but then how would you be able to hide it all? Perhaps when you enter sneak mode you'll disappear from the map, or maybe that's a good effect to put in a perk card. For actual in-game enemies like creatures, stealth perks to make you harder to detect would still work as normal though, and so could sneak attack multipliers, but I still wonder how that would work in PvP. Maybe if you have the right perk cards and you shoot someone while crouched from behind, you could get a sneak attack multiplier against a real player. Food for thought. What mechanics do you think they'll use for stealth? I also wonder about a melee playstyle, so while you could specialize in endurance and strength, making yourself harder to kill and really strong with melee, won't you still get eaten alive by other players with guns? Like, I seriously wonder if melee will become a functional playstyle for PvP, or if it will just become underpowered, because while it may be hard to kill someone who has a melee weapon, high strength and high endurance, it would be just as hard to kill the same person without strength and instead with guns. Like, if you both have high endurance, but one can just run backwards and shoot, what chance does the melee fighter have? There are ways it could work, but this online game really has me thinking, and if power armor brings your strength to 10, then anyone will be able to use melee, although without the right perk cards, it will still be a bit less effective. Something tells me you won't have a blitz perk card, but if we had something like it, we could definitely even out the playing field, but I think unexplained teleportation would look a little bit silly in PvP. Now, question number 12. What will eventually be added to the game, and what can be, both officially and unofficially? I'm really keen to find out exactly what Todd meant when he said Bethesda aims to add to the game constantly and to have that long-term interaction with the fans. In the Making of Fallout 76 documentary, it was explained that there would be both constant streams of small content as well as kind of less frequent streams of bigger drops with more impactful content. This is super cool, but get this. Todd said that the content added would be based on what they discover the players like, so it's nice to know they're listening to us, but where is this gonna lead? What kind of functions do you think most players will actually gravitate towards, and therefore Bethesda will be forced to focus on? I also wonder just how frequently things will be actually added in the game, like every few weeks. Also, how long will it take before we get mods? Todd did say that we will actually be able to have our own private worlds and mod them and all of that, and this is where the longevity is, but we won't be having it on launch. He said they were committed to ensuring it happens, but when? By the way, here's an idea of what I would love to see created. How about a content creation private world where players can't take damage from each other and console commands are added in, allowing YouTubers to use commands which allow us to change the weather, time, and fly around with the free cam to create all the cinematic shots we already do with the pre-existing BGS games without dying. It would certainly be sensational to be able to film awesome looking footage without worrying about a nuke killing us. On that note, playing without helpful console commands will be interesting, and I guess that's how console players feel all the time, but imagine if you get stuck in a rock or something like that, which definitely can happen in a Bethesda game. It's happened to me a lot of times, and then you can't toggle collision to escape. Hopefully the beta cleans up most of the glitches though. So how do you think the mod system will work, and how long after launch until we get it? Now, speaking of the beta, that brings me to question 13, the quickest one of them all. When is the beta? Honestly, I'm not sure, but I imagine it being a month or two from the release at least, if they really want to work out all the bugs. Anyway, in the time between me voicing this and uploading the video, if the beta is confirmed, let me know how it's all going to go down, but if not, let me know your prediction from when it will all happen. And that concludes this massive video on the 13 questions or question topics I still really want answers to. Let me know in the comments below any input you have just about anything at all, and I'll do my best to scan through and read as much as I can, and I encourage you guys to as well. It's really good to see what everyone thinks and to piece together possibilities. I really enjoyed making the video, and if you enjoy watching our content, be sure to subscribe for all kinds of Fallout and Elder Scrolls goodness. My name is Michael, thank you all so much for watching, and I look forward to nerding out with you again very soon.